Hi, Lynn. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. So to start us off, I want to talk about your characters. Tell me about Clyde. She has a lot of layers to her. She's very unique. She's hilarious. What's your interpretation of her?
Sure. Clyde is someone who has been through a set of very tough circumstances, and some of us, once we've lived through a difficult situation, we find ways to find grace. Clyde is not one of those people. Clyde moves through life with this armor, which is a protective armor. It's the way in which she survives, and she's merciless, and she's mean, and she's vindictive. But in the bottom line is she ultimately is providing sanctuary for people who can't find work anywhere else. So one of the phrases that I really love is like, you have to sustain the complexity of a character like Clyde. On the surface, she may feel really tough, but I think underneath there's much more complexity. And, if you dig really, really deeply, there's probably a beating heart.
I absolutely love that. I have so much admiration for your ability to combine this great substance and this drama with such lighthearted comedy. And it's hilarious, but it's also, you take so much away from it. How did you capture that combination on stage in your writing?
Well, I think that the key to writing a comedy is telling the truth. And I think that the truth always brings all of those textures with it. It's the pathos and the humor. And that's just what I leaned into. And when I was sitting down to write Clyde's, I wasn't expecting to write a comedy. I thought, I'm going to write a situational drama about this group of people. And once I put them in that kitchen, suddenly the humor just came. I didn't have to conjure it. It just sort of rose from the circumstances. And that's the way I think the best comedy works, is when we're not pushing for those laughs, but the laughs come organically.
I love that, and I think that really comes to life on stage, which is incredible. If viewers can take absolutely anything away from this, what would you want it to be?
From the play?
Yes.
I think that when people leave the play, I want them to think a lot about the circumstances of the people who are on that stage, the formerly incarcerated, who many might write off or may not necessarily even see within their communities. And I also want, because it's a play ultimately about mindfulness and joy and love, is that when people leave, I want them to move through the world with a greater sense of intention. Is from the way in which they make a sandwich to the way they walk down the street, is just to take in the world and think about it in a more contemplative way.
I absolutely love that. Now, something I was talking to Kate about is something that the Wall Street Journal said about your writing that I really love, is so much of your genius in this particular play comes from the fact that you take these political situations, or not even political, just these heavy situations, and you apply to them to real life people and real life characters to show their importance and to show that things affect everyone, the people that you wouldn't think they would affect. How do you think this resonates in your characters and your writing?
I live in this world as a writer, and I think that there's no way I cannot reflect what I see. And I think that's really an essential ingredient in my work, is being socially engaged and being in conversation with the world at large. And I enjoy that dialogue, and I invite it. And I invite the challenge of putting things which are complicated on the stage, and things that people might not necessarily think belong on the stage, whether it be Ruined, which was about gender-specific human rights abuses, or Sweat, which is about economic stagnation and the way in which it fractures our culture, to Clyde's, which is about the formerly incarcerated trying to resurrect their lives in the face of all of these obstacles. I invite those kind of challenges and think it's necessary to put those kind of stories on the stage.
If it's possible to pick, which I'm sure it might not be, what is your favorite thing about this project?
Well, my favorite thing about this project, because of the moment in which it comes after 18 long months of not being with people and not being in rehearsal, is just like being back in the rehearsal room and talking about the work and watching really talented people bring characters to life. I mean, that's the best thing about this process. Everything else is gravy.
That actually leads me into my next question, which is Broadway has been dark for 18 months, and you guys are coming in at a really unique time, because everyone's so excited to be back and be together. How does that feel?
Well, It's a wonderful moment. It's a difficult moment. I'm really happy to be back in the theater after such a protracted period of time. But it's also a bittersweet moment because we have to sit in the audience with our masks on, and tourists haven't come back, and audiences are somewhat nervous. And so I'm really happy to be here, but I just wish that everyone would come and enjoy theater.
I would agree. Lynn, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Hi, Kate. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. I'm glad to hear it. So something that the Wall Street Journal said about your show that really resonated with me in viewing it was that something so special about it is that it takes political situations and applies them to everyday people. So it kind of shows that these situations and the applications of them, they resonate with us as humans. How do you think that resonates on stage?
I think it's the basis of what we do. I think the exciting work is to find a way of creating character that is truthful and honest and may reflect the society that we live in, but the idea is that everything is as truthful as we can be, so that there is complexity in character, and that as actors and as storytellers we're working on what it's like for the simple things of what's it like to try to find love, what's it like, the basic human elements we're trying to celebrate on stage.
Tell me about Clyde as a character. She has so many layers to her. How do you interpret her?
I think Clyde is someone who has never had love in her life. I think her mother never loved her. I don't think she's ever experienced love, and so I think she's someone who is incredibly sensitive, but unwilling to take the step towards the vulnerability of what it's like to pursue love. So she's unwilling to take that step. So she gets closer and closer all of the time. But the question in the play is, will she ever go outside of her comfort zone and be able to grow?
I want to talk about your cast now. How did you know that Uzo was right for the role of Clyde?
It's Uzo.
You're very right.
I mean, the truth is, Uzo is, she has an Emmy for comedy and for drama. And the part, you need both, right? Because you want to have someone who can really land all of the jokes, which she does brilliantly and beautifully. But you also want someone who can really carve out the dramatic action of someone who has enough trauma that they're unwilling to get outside of their comfort zone.
How did you go about getting that balance of the comedy and the drama on stage?
Honestly, it's to play moment to moment. So the play turns, right, where it's like it'll be a funny moment, and from the funny moment, someone will say something quite serious. It's all actually, it's organized in the writing, and my job is to really hone every single moment that's in the script.
Absolutely. Now, Broadway has been dark for 18 months, as we know. How does it feel to be opening this up, in this time of Broadway coming back and people coming together? How does that feel, and what do you hope that viewers take away from your show in particular?
I'm very happy to be part of Second Stage, because Second Stage is a theater that I've worked at and LYNN has worked at. It's a home theater. Carol Rothman has been amazing. So the idea of coming home to restart theater is beautiful. And then I think that Clyde's is such an extraordinary piece because it's heartwarming. There's love in it. There's care. There's humor. There's fun. And I think the world is really starved for things that feel that celebrate the positive. And I think this play celebrates the hard-earned positives.
If viewers could take away one message from everything about this show, what do you hope that it is?
I think it's to have courage enough to pursue your own growth.
I really love that. Kate, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Good, I'm glad to hear it. So you guys are coming back to Broadway at a really exciting time for Broadway. It's been dark for 18 months, and now everyone's kind of coming together, really excited to get back. First of all, what are you most excited about for this project, and how does it feel to be representing a time where everyone's just coming back and witnessing what you guys have put on?
I think I'm most excited just to be performing for a live audience again, as obvious as that might sound. I was lucky enough to do a bunch of Zoom plays and workshops, things like that over the pandemic, and I really missed not only having an audience but being with my colleagues and being with my fellow actors and director and playwright and designers in the room. It's a sense of community that is really important to me on a personal level as well as professionally. So I think it's just that sense of community that I'm most excited about.
Absolutely, I would totally agree. Now, Clyde is a story that has a lot of layers to it, some incredible messages.
Yeah.
What do you hope the viewers take away from your performance in particular?
I hope that people leave the theater thinking about maybe the ways that they can be kinder to themselves and to other people. I think that there's a lot of hope in the play at its core, as much as it does touch on tough subjects. I think it's really about a group of people who are all trying to find a sense of self-forgiveness and self-love. And I think that they're all kind of emerging from this dark period in their lives and trying to find a light and hope for the future. And I think that that's something that we can all, see in ourselves right now with the year or 2 years we've had.
Absolutely. What inspiration do you take away from it in your daily life?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, exactly what I just said, which is like I've been looking at things with a little bit more of an open, hopeful mind for the future. I think for a little while with COVID and everything, things were feeling kind of bleak, and I wasn't able to look to the future with a lot of happiness. The circumstances of the people in the play are a lot worse than mine. I'm a very lucky, privileged person, so it makes it, it's a great reminder, and has been inspiring in that way.
I could imagine. Now, you were back in the rehearsal room in person with everyone for the first time in a long time. How did that feel?
At first it was weird, it's particularly because, certain people have masks on, like right now.
Yeah.
You have a mask on, I don't. And so at first it felt kind of like, hard to communicate or I'm not entirely sure, how someone means something because you can't see their entire face.
Yeah.
But I feel like I've kind of gotten used to that now, and it's such a cliched term now, but it's like the new normal. And now it just feels like going to work. It's only been 2 weeks, but it feels like it's been like a month. Yeah.
I love that. So you guys open very soon. What are you most looking forward to for opening night?
Oh, I don't know. I guess just hopefully having an opportunity to celebrate with everyone. We've been going and going and going, and I think we will be through the next couple weeks as we finish tech and indeed through previews. And I hope that we, even if it's outside or in some sort of safe space, we can have some sort of masked celebration or a safe way to kind of be with one another.
I think that at their very core, these are characters that are worth celebrating, so I really hope that you get that too. Tell me about your character. I know he's got a lot of depth to him. There's a lot going on in this show. What is your own interpretation of it?
So Jason is his name, and he actually appears in LYNN's other play, Sweat. I think he's the only character that appears in both that play and in Clyde's. So he's recently been released from prison, and while in prison, got involved with kind of the wrong people and has all these tattoos on his body, some of which are white supremacist images, and he's sort of dealing with how to overcome that hateful past and turn a new leaf and love himself and allow himself to love other people and lead with love instead of hate, to put it simply. So it's and he's really truly on that journey in good faith, and so it's a beautiful thing to embody that, to embody someone who's really trying to do the right thing, even if he slips up sometimes,
I think we all do. Now, that is a really, really unique experience, playing a character that was crossed over from another play. How did you capture that? Did you feel any pressure there?
Yeah, I do a little bit for sure, but for the most part, it actually just feels like a gift because I have all this information from the other play. There's all these scenes and events that happen in Sweat that I can use as his backstory, which isn't usually the case. Usually the circumstances of a play or a character are confined to the one play you're doing. So it's a gift.
I would think so. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Hi, Reza. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm glad to hear it. So to start us out, tell me about your character. This is a cast of characters that are very in-depth, a lot to them. Tell me about yours.
Man, it's hard to talk about mine without, I'm just a team player. I'm part of this team. We work in this sandwich spot in Pennsylvania. And yeah, I'm part of the team, man. I'm a worker, and I like to think that my character brings a little bit of the spice into the show. Yeah.
I can imagine. Now, you guys are opening up at a very unique time for Broadway because we've been closed for so long, for over 18 months. How do you feel about that, getting back into the game when everyone's coming and is excited? How does that make you feel?
I mean, part of me still a little bit, it's almost like a dream, like surreal. Like, is this happening? You know, it's a long time. It's 18 months. I feel like a lot of changes have happened in the world. So, but coming back to do Broadway, it feels like a celebration. It feels like a step towards a healing journey or healing process, you know? So I'm just very grateful, very blessed to be working and to be working, you know, after this 18 months, which were really hard, but at the same time, a historical month, a historical time.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's a time people are going to look back on. Now, this show is very layered. It's an incredible story. It has a lot of messages to it. What do you hope that viewers take away from it and take away from your performance?
Man, what I want people to take away is hope. The show, like you mentioned, is very deep, and there's a lot of layers and complexities, just like us, human beings. We're very complex. We have many layers. But it's a show about second chances, about redemption, about choices, the choices that we make in life, and how one choice could take our journey in a completely different direction. But there's always healing, you know. There's always healing. There's always the opportunity to rebuild and to transform. So hope is the word that I'm thinking about right now. I want people to come out of the theater feeling hope and then having conversations about hope. You know?
I really think that you having that understanding of it and that interpretation will do a lot of the heavy lifting and helping people understand that. Reza, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. You play Montrellis. He's a sandwich worker, and he has a lot of depth to him. He has a lot of layers. Who is he in your eyes? I want to hear your interpretation of him.
Well, he's not only a sandwich maker, he's a sandwich artist, right? So he's taking this whole art of making the sandwich to a whole nother level. And I think that's a part of his redemption and a part of his coming out and creating a whole new life for himself based on freeing his mind and his spirit to say that we as humans can have a second chance no matter how old you are. So that's how he starts. And from there he grows into the area of teaching the younger ex-convicts, and he is an older ex-convict, how to deal with life after being incarcerated and feeling like you've been crippled to a certain degree, emotionally and spiritually, and he's there to help them free themselves of that and start to feel like they can grow and think on their own, as opposed to what Clyde is doing was keeping them trapped in this idea that life has to be difficult and you have to always struggle and work hard, and which is true, but Montrellis is like you can also dream. So that's where his character kind of starts.
I really, really love that. Now, this is a story of love, of hope, of redemption. There are so many messages to it. Yeah. What do you hope that viewers who go to see this show take away from that?
Those same things. Hope, redemption, second chances, love, family, friendship, work ethics, all those things. And humor. It's a very funny play. And we forget to mention that quite often because there's so many other levels, but the humor comes out of the human experience. So it's not like pratfall humor or comedic humor. It comes out of the humor of just everyday people talking and going through an experience together in the kitchen making sandwiches. So it's very funny.
I want you to elaborate on that a little bit more, because that's such a beautiful take, that the comedy and the humor of this show comes from the human experience. Explain that.
Well, I think that's what makes LYNN such a genius. You know, we're talking about a woman who's a 2-time Pulitzer Prize-winning writer. Okay, so that's number one. And she has a beautiful way of weaving in that humor to where it hits you where you don't know it's coming, you know? So it's not like jokes are set up, but it is from the human experience. There are funny things that happen with family or friends, right? And you're either hanging out or you're talking, and in the midst of one of the most serious conversations, someone will say something and everybody just start cracking up, right? Yeah. It's kind of like that. And that's where the humor comes in. It comes in places that you're not expecting it. Behavioral humor, you know, the way someone might say something or move their body or respond to a situation. So, and the play is just strewn all together throughout the whole time with all this beautiful humor in it. It's a very funny play as well.
Absolutely. There's that combination of that depth there, and I really love that. You do something so important in any performance on Broadway, but especially this one. Montrellis gives these life lessons, just this discussion of power and of love, and of course that redemption that we were talking about. At the same time, Broadway's been dark for 18 months. Broadway's something that is so important to so many people. So many people are coming to see this show, and they're going to see your performance, and they're going to take so much away from that. How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel great. I mean, I feel like everybody else feels. We've all been sequestered for a long time. We still have to deal with the COVID rules. We still have to wear masks at certain times. We get tested twice every week. So we're all vaccinated. So we're still kind of in it. But what feels good is that you see the community effort. It's not just in the theater, but outside of the theater as well. And even the people that are coming to see the play, coming back and being in the seat next to someone else again, it's just profound. Sometimes it's hard to really find the words, but for me, what I noticed mostly is that how the community and the city has come together to make Broadway happen again. And when I was at the Tony several weeks ago, the red carpet was on the street and the lights were up, and it just hit you, and tears came to my eyes because it was like Broadway's really back. And look what it took. It took people from all walks of life to make this happen. For me to be back on this stage, it just didn't take me getting vaccinated. It took hundreds of people to come together to make this city work again, and understanding that this is one of our biggest draws in Manhattan, New York City, is Broadway. So it has a big, very bold, profound effect on me, and I hope that when people come to see this play, they're going to feel that, and this is the play that if they're going to come back to Broadway, this is one of the ones that they must see. It's such a beautiful play.
I really think that they will, and you have such a beautiful worldview of that, and I have so much appreciation for that and for you as a person.
Thank you.
Now, when you were getting into this character, when you had first read about Montrellis, when you first heard about him, what was that process like in adapting into this human being and his story?
Well, it's interesting. I didn't have a difficult process. I knew this man very well. I mean, I've been fortunate. Many of the characters that I've gotten, they have been men that I know very well that are deeper and layered. So as soon as I read Montrellis, I thought of so many uncles, my dad, cousins, brothers, friends. So that's the first place you go. So he was immediately recognizable. And then it was just about making some minor shifts in regards to the writing and then the direction, working with Kate, whom I've known for many years, as well as LYNN. So they both knew the aesthetic of what they wanted for this character, and I fit that aesthetic. So now it's just really playing to my own inner memory of all these different men and pulling them together to culminate into this one guy named Montrellis.
Now, you talk about knowing these wonderful men that you play, getting to know them and having that understanding of knowing them. Is that a different feeling every time, a different feeling of I know him, or is it all sort of relative for you?
No, it's different in particular to the character, but it's similar in a way that's the first thing you latch on to is like, who do I know this character from? And, if it's something very foreign, then you might do some more research and you look into, but these kind of men, Montrellis in particular, I just instinctively knew him. He was in me. A lot of him was already there. So then it's, like I said, just a matter of finding the particulars with the director. And that's where, you have to trust a good director, and you find those moments where you bring out certain things that you might have not known about that LYNN knew about, and then you just match them with everything else. So, yeah, I feel honored to play this role. It's a great role, wonderful role.
I truly feel honored to get to witness you playing it, and I'm sure that everyone who sees it will too. Ron, it is such a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'll see you soon.
I'll see you very soon.
Good.
So Clyde's is a brilliant layered play. Now, Clyde is a person who's been through a lot. She's had a lot of hardships in her life. She is an in-depth character. She's so layered, and she's also hilarious. What is your own interpretation of her? How do you see Clyde?
All of those things. No.
Just that.
The end.
Goodbye.
We're done. Done it.
Perfect.
Next interview. No. I see her in a lot of those ways. She's a woman who she's a fast wit. She's a strong woman. She's smart. She's a woman who is doing everything in her power to survive. She is a woman who will fight for tomorrow. And she is a woman who is doing the best she can with what she has, what she knows.
I really love that you see her that way. I've heard a lot of people today say different things about Clyde and the way that they see her. No, all good things.
None of
And I
them
love
that
and I love that interpretation of her seriously from your own eyes, and I really love that. Now, when you were first hearing about Clyde and reading about her, what was the process like in getting into this character?
What was the process? The process of getting into this woman was... I'm still in process because we're still in rehearsal. But keeping front of mind why she opened the diner, remembering what the diner is actually meant to do, how it's meant to serve. That was something that I really was focused on, that it's more than just a rest stop for truckers passing by. They're not just building sandwiches. You know, She is a woman who is trying to rebuild her own life and her best to help in the way she knows how to rebuild others.
Absolutely. Now, Clyde is a person who sees the world in a very unique view. Do you think there's any depth to the way she sees it? Why do you think she views it that way?
Because it's what she knows. She can only teach and exist with the tools that she has. I think that's the truth of the matter. And this is a woman who's had she tells us from minute one a piece of her background, and we can learn so much about what her upbringing is, her story is, her experience, you know what I mean, and how that informs the woman she's grown up to be. And she's doing her very best to love, and I think she's a reflection of what, tough love looks like, but it is still love, and it is the love that she knows and can offer.
Absolutely. I feel like we can find love in anything with that way. What do you want viewers to take away from the message of this show? There are many of them, but what do you think the most important one would be?
I think the thing I want viewers to take away is that life is not a straight line. It has many bends and many different pathways that it can take along its journey. I hope people really start to ask themselves the question, do we have the interest and the compassion in those lives of the forgotten? It's the play of that explores the lives of the most forgotten, some of the most forgotten people in our society. And so I hope this play sparks that question. I also really hope, to be honest with you, that people walk away realizing that there are still more stories to tell, that we've only just begun to scrape the surface of our storytelling, and that here is another new, fresh different perspective of a world of people we haven't yet seen explored on the Broadway stage, and that they're excited to come and see another show of the stage.
Now, I feel like there's going to be a lot of people who watch this and they see themselves in Clyde, in Montrellis, in all of these characters and their different stories. And there was something that was said, I believe by the Wall Street Journal, about your show that I think really resonated with me, because it was saying that so much of the genius of it is that it's taking these heavy situations and bringing them into characters that kind of seem like us, that seem human. So you're bringing humanization to these things that people don't typically think about. What's your interpretation of that?
Absolutely. I think that's what LYNN has done so brilliantly. I think LYNN she's done a really interesting thing with the point in these characters' lives. She's choosing to focus on their story. And it's the part after, right? The part that we don't often get to see highlighted or explored. And so I think that's really powerful. I think it's exciting to know that these stories are really kind of finding their way into life, that they're getting the chance to exist, and it's more complicated than the traditional way we have viewed it before.
Absolutely. Now, this is a story about humans. No, it's okay. No. This is a story about humans and about people, and you're getting it at a time where people are finally able to come together and be on Broadway and see shows after all of this time. What do you hope that when people go and see the show and get together with people, how do you hope they feel?
Oh my gosh. Full. I hope people feel reminded of what it feels like to be part of community again. what it means to really be together again. I hope people feel that energy that can only exist in a live experience, that collective energy we all bring together. You know, it's really easy to focus on a show and think it's people on stage that are having an effect. But the truth of the matter, I always think of the audience as that final character. That what is existing in the house, that energy that is coming together collectively, is what actually tells the story, finishes the story, completes the story, you know, and we can't do it without them. And I'm just so excited to have those scene partners again.
Absolutely. I know I know everyone's so excited to see it. Uzo, it is such a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
So to start us off, this show has characters that are so complex and so layered, but also they have, you know, the sense of humanity to them. And something that was stated about your guys' show was that this show, the brilliance of it is that it takes these heavy political charged situations and brings them to people, superhumans. Tell me about your character. What's your interpretation of her?
I think Tish is definitely a lover, definitely a feeler. Tish is fighting for her voice, for her creativity, for self-love, for her own humanity, and for her daughter. And I think she's really searching for her artist, you know? Yeah.
I can totally see that. Now, what message do you want viewers to take away from this performance that you guys are putting on? It is a show that has a lot to it.
It definitely has a lot to it. It's funny. It's very, 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 very funny. But there are many layers, and it's so interesting because when you make people laugh, you really kind of make people listen, you know. And I think that's the brilliance of LYNN NOTTAGE. I also just can't believe we're doing a LYNN NOTTAGE play. It's just still kind of like what. Now, I feel like the audience can take a lot away from this, and I think that people can connect to everyone's story. And I think this is a story about, this is a play about forgotten people, and this is the story of people who are not only re-beginning their lives, or restarting their lives rather, but, you know, stepping into the unknown and stepping into being hopeful about the unknown, which I think that we all can really identify right now with this pandemic.
I would absolutely agree. Now, you do something so important when you get on that stage every night, and that's you tell stories of these people that are really going to resonate with other people. I'm sure that there are many people who go and they're going to see a bit of themselves in Tish. Do you see any of yourself in her?
I see a lot of myself in Tish, and I think that there are a lot of differences as well. And I think I think I'm still also in the very much exploratory phase at this very juncture, but I see both. Yeah. And definitely her sensitivity to life, and to the realities around her. And also with wanting to get closer to spirit and get closer to self.
Absolutely. I think that sense of self-worth really resonates within the show. There's also that balance in it where we have the comedy and also the depth and the drama and the passion. How did you go about, you know, connecting both of those? Because there's a fine line there.
It's just tapping into or the goal, right? It's like always a goal. You know, you strive to do the thing. You push to do the thing, you know, and then you do it, you know, and I have an opportunity to do it, and the goal is really to tap into the humanity of this woman and what her experience is, and tapping into the Black experience. I mean, I feel really honored that I get to honor a Black body on the stage, period, you know? And that's where I come from anytime I get emotional. But anytime first of all, being back in the theater, being the feeling of knowing that I'm going to be on a stage to tell a story, it feels very spiritual to me. and I feel very honored to be able to do that, and also to honor this Black woman. I don't think I answered your question.
I think you did. I think you answered it in an incredible way.
Yeah, and to be directed by Kate WHORISKEY, to be in a new NOTTAGE play, to witness the genius of Uzo and Ron, and my other fellow actors, REZA and EDMUND, is such a gift.
I could 100% imagine. What have you learned from this play and your performance and from Tish in general?
Right now, what I've been learning is the experience is very separate than the play. And not even, because I think it's actually coinciding now that I said that. But what I'm learning is to continue to be creative and to say yes to your creative spark. So like, even if I'm saying this to you right now, like, say yes to your creative, like whatever it is. Like, if you want to do something wild, do it, because like the building and the dreaming is a part of like what your reality can be. And if you think it and dream it, like, it can be yours. And these are, and in particular, these people, they're not used to dreaming. Or for me, I don't think Tish is used to dreaming, right? And I think that now she's getting the chance to dream and to create, and therefore she wants more out of life, and is not necessarily sure how that might go, but that's okay, because she's hopeful about her spirit and her power and herself. And there's definitely a journey, and so we see that.
And that's what she deserves. Kara, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it so much. I'm so excited to see you on stage.